Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Politics here at The Hindu with me, Nistula Hebbar, where we unpack the news making the headlines in domestic politics. And last weekend, we saw the exit of Vijay Rupani, Chief Minister of Gujarat, and the ushering in of his successor, Mr Bhupendra Patel, in what seemed like one in a series, the fifth, in fact, Chief Minister of a BJP-ruled state to lose his job this year. In fact, earlier in the year, you saw the replacement of Trivendra Singh Rawat by first Tirth Singh Rawat and then Pushkar Dhami in Uttarakhand. Then you saw, despite having won elections under his leadership, Sarbananda Sonowal being moved to the Union Cabinet and Himanta Biswa Sarma being made Chief Minister of Assam. After which it was the turn of Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa to give way to Basavaraj Bommai, and this weekend it was the turn of Mr. Vijay Rupani to give way to Mr. Bhupendra Patel. What is the reason why 5 chief ministers of BJP-ruled states having lost their jobs this year, and what does it say about the internal situation of the BJP and their electoral strategy going forward? That will be the subject of this episode of Talking Politics. Mr. Vijay Rupani got his marching orders, many say, because of his mishandling of the COVID second wave, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi was particularly aggrieved, it is said, by the way that the administration had handled the COVID second wave, and also because the Bharatiya Janata Party, whose bedrock of support had been the Patidar or Patel community for many years, were feeling aggrieved that they were not represented at the top leadership position of the party, either as party chief or as chief minister in the state. The state is about to go to polls later next year, and as the home state of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Minister Amit Shah, a victory in that state is a matter of prestige. These are the immediate reasons that people are putting forward for the removal of Mr. Rupani and the ushering in of his successor, Mr. Bhupendra Patel. But what does that say about the BJP? They are also one in a series, as I said in the introductory clip, that they are one in a series, fifth in a row of changes being made. Well, the masterful way in which the High Command moved and removed powerful chief ministers or even chief ministers who are sitting atop the top of their government smoothly without much rebellion in the ranks shows the BJP has incontrovertibly turned into a high command party where the central or national leadership, especially of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is absolute, and his control over the party organization and its governmental units is also absolute. What it also shows is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also looking at a series of assembly election losses that the party has suffered, especially since 2018. Now, if you just go back a little in time, you see that in 2018 you had the Karnataka elections in May, where the party did extremely well but fell a little short of majority. There was a large-scale poaching operation of opposition MLAs, which resulted in a majority, a manufactured majority, but not before at least a year of the Congress-JDS coalition government had been in place. Then you had the 3 assembly elections of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan, all 3 of which the BJP lost. Delhi was lost by the BJP, as also Jharkhand, which was lost to an alliance of the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha and the Congress. And then later Haryana was also basically an election where the BJP did not get a majority, had to create a majority out of an alliance with the Jananayak Janata Party led by Dushyant Chautala. So what does this all show? It shows at the same time, if you see, in 2019 the BJP increased its tally in the Lok Sabha elections from 282 to over 300 seats, 303 seats, and therefore demonstrated that while nationally Prime Minister Narendra Modi's popularity and vote-catching abilities were intact, that he was the one leader a lot of Indians repose their faith in, This was not the same case with the state units of the BJP, where local issues and faction politics and other issues took center stage rather than the personality of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He could not be deployed again and again to catch votes, even in state assembly elections, was the message that the people were sending loud and clear to the BJP's high command. Now, how do you reconcile two tendencies that we have just seen? One, that the party high command has become extremely centralized, most centralized in its entire history. And at the same time, you have a series of assembly election losses. And therefore, you start to look for a halfway house where you find chief ministerial candidates who are amenable to control by the central leadership of the party, the national leadership of the party, but also speak to the state electorate in terms of having a fresh record, no baggage, like in the case of Pushkar Dhami, or what was attempted with Mr. Tirath Singh Rawat unsuccessfully, and then of course Mr. Pushkar Dhami being put in place, or the High Command not liking the fact that a mass leader like B.S. Yediyurappa was basically going his own way, had to be replaced, but Lingayat sentiments had to be respected, and therefore Mr. Bommai, another Lingayat leader, not so much a mass leader as Mr. Yediyurappa, but amenable to the national leadership, but also satisfying the sentiments in the Lingayat community, was put in place. Therefore, the change in Gujarat also is seen in the same matrix that Mr. Rupani, whose performance was not appreciated in terms of popular opinion, was replaced by Mr. Patel, who's a first-term MLA, has no mass following, despite having won the assembly elections from Ghatlodia Assembly constituency in 2017 with the largest margin of 117,000 votes, but also satisfying some of the community feelings among the patidars of the Patel community in the state. Now, that is the logic. Whether it will work out for the BJP in the elections coming ahead is yet to be seen. And the one outlier in all of this was, of course, Uttar Pradesh, where Yogi Adityanath, despite a lot of infighting within the UP BJP, managed to retain his job. Sources within the BJP tell me that it was purely based on political calculation, that whatever the issues against Mr. Yogi Adityanath within the BJP organizational structure, he retains his Hindutva appeal pan-state, and that would be very difficult to replace him with a leader with a similar sort of appeal, or even an approximation of that appeal. So this was an episode where I tried to explain why 5 chief ministers of BJP-ruled states had to lose their job this year. 3 months left in the year. Maybe chief ministers of Madhya Pradesh and Goa and Manipur need to watch out. Whether or not anything else happens in that situation, we'll be there to track it. Thank you for being with us.